OxyHeal Health Group is proudly presenting its S200 transportable recompression chamber. The S200 is essentially designed to provide additional oxygen to human casualties. It has a number of features that its copycat competitors do not have. It has the pressure capability of being able to treat all diving medical response tables. It's compatible with the United States Navy, the United States Marine Corps, and other NATO forces. But it's different in that it is also designed to respond for critical care patients, either battlefield, hospital chronic care patients also. Proudly made in America to all of the appropriate codes, it can be supplied to your service at significantly lower cost than its overseas copies. Oxygen is very important to the human body. In fact, you can only live 3 minutes without it. Glucose is important too. You can go without food for 3 weeks. But again, oxygen, 3 minutes of consciousness, and then 9 minutes later, the human body will die. There's lots of gases that affect the body adversely, and they're commonly encountered. Nitrogen is the one that creeps up on us during diving accidents. Carbon monoxide is very, very common in our modern society. There are lots of industrial gases that are extremely bad for the human body to inhale. And then, of course, the tissue poisons from biowarfare, the methemoglobinemia, are designed to interfere with oxygen transport, either by putting a little envelope around the red blood cell so it cannot transport oxygen, or filling the red blood cell with something else that will poison the body. In the rescue of personnel, the retrieval of battle casualties, OxyHeal recognizes there is a golden window of response, and that golden window is time. The faster you can respond, the more lives you are likely to save. So therefore, the S200 is designed to arrive quickly and ready for business. It's all to do with the universal gas laws. The one that matters most is Henry's law. A little illustration of gas solubility is if we take a bottle of orange flavored water and we put a little bit of carbon dioxide in it, that CO2 is going to diffuse into the clear fluid, or the orange fluid in this case, and it will be carbonic acid. It will just be stored there until you pop the lid and you pour a glass of this, now, as Americans call, a soda, and it liberates the carbonic acid, which turns back into carbon dioxide, and we have these lovely little refreshing bubbles. Essentially, the can or the bottle is a hyperbaric chamber, especially since humans are mostly water. If we substitute oxygen instead of air or carbon dioxide, that oxygen will diffuse through all of our body. And in particular, in the case of diving or aviation, that oxygen will open up the nitrogen window. Let's think about that for a moment. Our bodies are composed of about 3% body weight of nitrogen. However, if we dive or if we alter our air pressures upon us, such as in aviation, we will either give off or take in additional nitrogen. Taking in additional nitrogen will actually cause problems within our body. Little bubbles will form if you come to the surface too fast. Thus the need for a transportable recompression chamber at dive site. Once in the chamber, an oxygen is breathed. The patient will actually, in an orderly fashion, breathe out the additional nitrogen they took in. But smoke inhalation is a much larger and more common threat than diving accidents. This photograph, taken in Kuwait many years ago, shows the effect of smoke. This serviceman here, with his particle mask, may as well not be wearing it, because all of these gases that are given off by this hot fire can't be smelled, or rarely can, and certainly they cannot be seen. Lack of oxygen occurs when carbon monoxide is taken into the body. We put a broad label on it and we just call it smoke inhalation, carboxyhemoglobin. Terrible fire occurred in Korea in a subway. Take a close look. What happens is the red blood cells love carbon monoxide way more than they are attracted to oxygen, and they quickly fill up, and the body's entire physiology changes. In a smoke situation like this, if you look carefully at the people, the firemen that are going down into the subway have breathing apparatus on. None of the policemen in crowd control do have masks or particle masks at all. So they are being wounded and damaged by lack of oxygen because of the increase of carbon monoxide. This is very common for firemen in forest fires, in home fires. And you'll notice with all of that smoke there, and the people and the bystanders, they're all taking on carbon monoxide. They can't smell it, they can't see it, but they are being wounded or inhibited by it. Essentially, what it does, if you look at the figure there, it starts to kill off neuronal activity. And people become sluggish and wounded because of it. They need hyperbaric oxygen. A classic case of this was 9/11. These photographs, taken at ground zero the following day, are unique and special. Look at the fumes, look at the smoke. Now take careful note of people up there in that terrible wreckage. If you count around those firemen, there's only 3 or 4 of them have breathing apparatus on. Particle masks are not on, it's hot, they work there long hours there. The industrial gases were there, all of them, because of the pyrolysis products of burning plastics, burning televisions, papers and things. But essentially there were methemoglobinemia there. This was a form of biowarfare on a massive scale and has had profound effects on the first responders. The casualty count 9 years later, in December 2010, the United States government has allocated $9.2 billion for the health care of these first responders. They knew this problem way back, but chose to ignore it. Now, essentially, because so many of the firefighters and first responders that were there are now dying, they have to actually do something about it. This could have been avoided to a large degree by deploying hyperbaric chambers for these patients. Why? How? How to get rid of that carboxyhemoglobin? Oxygen under pressure becomes an antagonist to carbon dioxide and monoxide. Merely by taking firemen affected or first responders and placing them in a hyperbaric chamber, you would eliminate a lot of the carboxyhemoglobin. For example, the half-life of carboxyhemoglobin is 5 hours 20 minutes just breathing air. And that means that if you had a 10% load, which would be too much for you anyway, but 10% for easy math, actually 5 hours 20 minutes later you'd be down to 5%. And then 15 hours after your initial insult, you'd be down to 2.5%. Look what happens when you breathe oxygen. At 100% oxygen on the surface, it cuts the half-life down to 1 hour 20 minutes. If you put a person who's suffering from acute carboxyhemoglobin or carbon monoxide intoxication, 23 minutes is the half-life. The high dosage oxygen restores neuronal activity and it supports some cells. When OxyHeal trains, it considers anybody that's been at a smoke or hazardous area to be the walking wounded. If the patient or the responder has been unconscious for any time, then they should be going into a hyperbaric chamber. If they work for more than an hour in a smoky environment, again, what should happen? Up to 30 days after exposure, people should be asked questions: reaction, orientation, affect, mentation, speech. What's your home phone number? When was your first son born? If they can't answer that, they need to go into a hyperbaric chamber. Delayed sequel, carbon monoxide poisoning for first responders, is extremely normal. Let's go back and talk about the history of the transportable recompression chamber system back in 1982. My name is Robert Lyon Sands. I'm doing the narration. I was commissioned to design a chamber to fly in a Bell QH series helicopter. It was small. It had to be easily transported also in fixed wing aircraft, since the design envelope was to transport patients or retrieve patients under pressure. This is one of the first chambers that I built back in 1986. There's my son there, who's now president of Sands Hyperbaric Corporation. I worked with the United States Navy for some years, refining my design, and a full patent was given to me in 1989 for this chamber design. In 2006, Sands Hyperbaric Corporation licensed out the manufacture of this chamber, the S200, to OxyHeal Health Group. We did so for good reason. OxyHeal is the largest, most efficient builder, fabricator and operator of chambers in the United States and even around the world. So customers that buy the S200 now have the almost instant support of this very large, strong corporation that's been steering their clients right for 30 years. Now let's jump across to the procurement of the transportable recompression chamber system by the United States Navy. For numerous reasons, they felt that they should buy from Australia a copy of the SANS TRCS. That copy has been plagued with problems. That's not what I say, that's what the US Navy sources have published. However, the Oxyhill S200 is a glitch-free, beautifully Swiss watch style chamber. A lot of effort goes into the Oxyhill S200 chamber. It's rugged, robust, works perfectly every time. The United States Navy and the Marine Corps use the Australian copy in a different way. They use it only for diving problems, or, as they're fond of saying, bubble trouble. Notice this. The Navy has dispatched 50 personnel and 2 transportable chambers. The United States Navy actually works according to the US Navy diving manual traditions. That means there's lots of people up there. There's lots of ancillary equipment, gas, personnel, and equipment. Whereas the S200 is designed according to its original design and an aggressive response has to be fast, simple, easy to manhandle. That golden window has got to be got through in speed. The Oxyhill S200 is designed to be used in a rugged battlefield environment. Rescue and retrieval, it can be used as a hyperbaric ambulance or just one piece of it. On site treatments, you can put both pieces together and use it as a hyperbaric mass unit. For primary mass treatments, you can use it as a multi-place chamber, or you can put many monoplace chambers in there. Both chambers can be used in a hospital environment while they're waiting to be transported here. We're going to give you the Malaysian experience. Malaysia has always had a smoke problem from one of its neighbours. A very, very bad problem. Across the ocean from Malaysia, the Indonesian folk do a lot of burning. And this burning, and you'll see the little red spots there, actually stop rainfall and produce huge amounts of haze. And this haze actually damages the patients, or the people, the population 300 or 400 miles away. The Malaysian Fire and Rescue Department actually use these little chambers to treat their people for smoke inhalation. There you see S200s actually being used by the Fire and Rescue Department. We like to call this rescue by rendezvous. Malaysia is a long archipelago, and there are trained responders out there who know when to pick up the phone and ask for one of these little S200s to be delivered to the site of an accident or a casualty. They can arrive by truck, and you'll see that there is a 1 window around Kuala Lumpur there where that chamber is stationed. If, for example, helicopters are used, it puts a much larger radius of rapid response. As a hyperbaric mass unit, they can be quickly set up, taken off the truck, put together just by a few personnel. With the doctor supervising, you can have an opportunity to treat mass casualties. It also can be used as a hyperbaric multiplace chamber. If you take the transportable end, you can put in 2 smoke patients, 1 trauma or 1 medic. If you connect it to its secondary piece via its NATO flange, you can add even 3 smoke patients in that one. If you're using it as a hyperbaric ambulance, you can transport it with the patient and do transfers under pressure to a much larger hyperbaric chamber, where more acute care can be given by physicians. In smaller instances, you can take the transportable recompression chamber in and you can actually connect it to a smaller big sister chamber for multiple casualties. Does your service need high dosage oxygen? The answer is yes, it does. The logical procurement choice of the TRCS, a transportable recompression chamber, is OxyHeal. There's 30 years of experience has gone into this chamber and it is constantly being refined. "20 years of clinical experience. OxyHeal offers full training for hospital and chronic care patients. There's a full training program for emergency use, not only for diving medicine, from OxyHeal. Proudly made in the United States, it can be provided to your service at significantly lower cost than overseas competitors. Please contact us. We would love to provide you with more information. And of course, we have to acknowledge the fine folk that helped us in the presentation of this material to you. Thank you for your attention.